Hey, Shawnee from SpeedQBView.com. So this is the fourth video in the FMC techniques. First one was just a basics video, then we had building blocks, and then pseudo blocks, and now inversions and NISS. So inversion is basically taking the inverse of the scramble. Now, whenever I do an FMC solve, I will usually just write that out from the very beginning. We want to be able to look at the letters and just do that intuitively, but I will take, a minute or so to write that out just to make it easier in the long run and not mess things up. So the way this works is anything that is a 180-degree move, like a D2, is still a D2. Anything that's a prime is now regular, and we just go backwards. So instead of this way, we're going to start with F prime, U, R, F, R. Now, when you do the inverse of the scramble, it actually might look pretty similar. So we've got, and if you look, here's the regular scramble, and here's the inverse. And it looks very, very similar. We have the exact same white pieces here, that red block. And so also what you're going to find is pretty much the same amount of flipped edges and very similar pairs. Now what you can do is find the solution to the inverse of the scramble. You can just find the whole inverse and then reverse that. So what I mean by that is we've got the scramble and then the inverse scramble, which I'm going to call scramble prime. Then we can find a solution for scramble prime, which we're going to call solution prime. And if you take the inverse of solution prime, it's going to solve the original scramble. So the inverse of the solution will also solve the inverse of the scramble and vice versa. So you can do that, but there's not going to be many times that that's going to be a huge difference. What you want to do is switch back and forth, which is NISS, N-I-S-S, normal inverse scramble switch, where you're going back and forth between the normal one and the inverse one. And what's going to happen is this. So right now, our best solution we have is doing L prime D prime F L2 with a pre-move of L. So we've got our scramble, and actually I'm going to get a clean sheet of paper because this is hard to read with that underneath it. And new piece of paper. So what we're going to do is you basically have the scramble, and we have our moves right now, L prime, D prime, F, L2 with our pre-move L. Now, one thing to remember is that the solve and solution is cyclical. It's a cycle. So as you're solving it, you can turn around and solve the other way. And if you have a block solved already on one side, if you do the inverse, you will still have a block solved at the other spot. And that's why the inverse also works. So for example, this from here is a 2 by 2 by 2 block. So what we want to do now is go backwards. So let's take a cube and we'll do the inverse. So we've got still L2. This will be F prime, D, L. And then the inverse of the scramble, and we could read this all backwards, but that's why I have it written out because it makes it a lot easier. And then L prime. And we still have a block. And now we are in the inverse of the scramble. Now, you might ask, why would you ever want to do this? Sometimes this can make a big difference. You might not have a good next step. Like right here, we do have some other things we can do very nicely. But right here, I just see I've got a block that I could easily insert there. Where's that red yellow edge? Oh, definitely. So what I can do is I can find the inverse, and I usually put like an I with a colon just so I remember I'm doing the inverse right now. And I'm going to set that red and yellow edge up with an F prime, and then I'm going to do an R2 and move this pair into place with a U move, and then R. And now I've built a 2 by 2 by 3 block with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 moves. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, there are a couple other things that are still paired up. And right here, we don't, how I said before, have to keep yellow as bottom. We could move blue as the bottom. But I don't really see anything that's catching my eye right now. So what we're going to do is go forward again. So now remember, this was the inverse. And so to go forward, we've got to do F, R2, U prime, R. So kind of going backwards in there. And now we're just going to go forwards. So there's our 2x2x3 block. I'm going to move this back into frame. And I'll grab a new cube. I'm going to start by doing all 5 of those pre-moves, R prime, U prime, R2, F, L. Then I'm going to do the scramble, the normal scramble. And then these 4 moves, L prime, D prime, F, L2. And we should, again, have a 2x2x3 block, but now we might have some other stuff open. And we kind of do right here, but I don't know how that's going to fit in. Let's see what we can do right now. Well, I could just move this blue one in. This might not be the most efficient, but we're going to do this for time's sake. So I'm going to make blue on bottom now, and so I'm going to put R for regular. That's the way I keep track of it. And I'm going to do U, because it's the U layer. And then F prime, U2. Nope, never mind. Just another U. And then R prime, F2, R. And I actually didn't mean to put that corner in. I don't really want that in there. But now I've got F2L minus 1. And that's a total of, I think, like 15 moves now. So let's say I get stuck right here. I don't really know what to do. Well, we can inverse it once more. So I'm going to write these down. U, F, U, R prime, F2, R. And let's take one more cube. Let's do the inverse of all of this right now. So we've got that R prime, F2, R, U prime, F prime, U prime, and then L2, F prime, D, L. Then I'm going to do the inverse scramble, which I have written out. And then the inverse of the other stuff we had before, which was L prime, F prime, R2, U, R. And I must have messed something up, because that's not completely correct. Ah, that's why. That's an F prime, R prime, U, R. And we should have, we still don't. Oh, wait, there it is. We should have F2L minus 1, and we do, and that edge is still in place right there. So it gives us a few options to do that final piece right there. And if you notice, we even have 2 different OLLs. So what we can do now, and this is where NISS really comes into play, inserting the final pair and OLL. Because you might have something where you have one OLL, and then it turns into, let's say, an N permutation afterwards. You do the whole inverse, you have maybe a different OLL that might get PLL for you. So it really opens the doors for how many options you have. So I'm going to leave it right here, and next time we're going to talk about edge orientation. So I'll see you in the next video.